You're listening to TV Tangents, a retro TV podcast. All right. Hi, Natalie.
Hi, Rebecca.
Welcome back to TV Tangents.
So excited for this.
I have been waiting so long for this
excited.
show. Okay, so we kept pushing this back and pushing it back.
Yes.
And now here we are talking about my favorite, what would you call it? Action show of all time.
Yeah.
It is. We're talking about Simon and Simon.
I had never seen Simon and Simon.
And I love that you watched it just for me.
I know. I just thought about that the other day, how, I got you on Dallas, and you got me on Simon and Simon. And I'm going to be honest, when I watched the first episode, I was like, okay. And I couldn't get past the music.
Oh, yeah. Well, but you were watching it from the beginning.
Yes.
Okay.
Which changed up. And in the very beginning, they played it a lot. And then it turned into just like the theme music. The ding, ding, ding.
And the original theme song was kind of cowboyish. Yeah. You know, and it was kind of cheesy.
It was good stuff, though. This is a really good show. It's like...
I'm glad you say that.
I already like shows in general that are, they're private detectives. So, I've been watching Law and Order SVU for, 20 years. So, something like that. And I was like, okay, this will be an interesting twist for me anyway, because it's 80s. So I'll have that part of it in there. And then I was like, well, I wonder how these stories will go. But it was... really good. Really good. There's always a story that kept me hooked. Only a couple times was I watching and I kind of got distracted and didn't pay attention. But most episodes, I'd be like, oh, wait, what? What just happened?
And this show was way more popular. Like, I think young people haven't really heard of this show. Yeah. And it hasn't been on TV in decades. It was in reruns when I was in high school, but it hasn't been on in a really long time. Yeah. And you can't find all of the seasons on DVD. So, but that doesn't even demonstrate how popular this show was when it was on. Simon and Simon is a CBS detective series that ran from 1981 to 1989, and it starred Gerald McRaney and Jameson Parker as two brothers who run a San Diego private detective agency. But many of the scenes actually are shot in Los Angeles. Yeah. But there's also a lot of really great scenes of San Diego.
And early on, it seems like they were, and again, we talked in a previous bonus episode how geographically challenged we are. So I
think we talk about that in all of our episodes.
Is San Diego close to the border?
Yes, it is. Because they go to Tijuana all the time.
I was like, because early on, and it's been a while since I watched those early episodes now, so I was thinking, were they going to Tijuana all the time?
I can tell you that I would not know where San Diego was were it not for this show. Because I know that you can go just right to Tijuana.
I just assumed, that San Diego was close to Los Angeles, because to me, everything in California is all there together.
Sure, yeah.
So, that's all.
I think that we would be great in a reboot of this show.
I think so, too.
I think we are. I would be Rick, though. Pretty sure I'd be Rick.
You think you would be Rick?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
No, I think I would be Rick and you would be AJ.
I don't know. I don't see that.
Because I'm more of a, I'm probably going to kick somebody's butt more so and also be mean about it. And you're going to be better at being pretty and flirting with someone, and that's how AJ does.
Okay, but that's true. I appreciate you saying that.
Because I would just be like, no, we're not doing that. No.
But you follow the rules all the time.
That's
true.
And
I don't.
That's true.
All the time.
Ooh, so we would be an interesting mix.
And also,
just talked into my bottle.
Hello. We're still drinking Fruly. We're drinking Fruly.
Drinking Fruly.
Premium
again.
Belgian white fruit beer.
It's so good.
Got strawberries in it, and it's amazing.
It is.
So, okay. You know what? We'll hash that out another time.
We'll hash that out when we
Maybe our listeners can tell us who's Rick and who's AJ.
Yeah, let us know. You know us pretty well by now.
Or, if CBS wants to reboot it, they can decide.
They'll decide between us. I like it.
Yeah, that's fine. So, we're going to do a fun thing that we did another time. Oh. We're going to drop ourselves into 1981.
Ooh.
So we can watch the premiere of the show.
I love it.
So it's November 24th, 1981. It's 8 o'clock on a Tuesday. You, Natalie, have a seat in your wood-paneled living room.
Yes.
And you're stressed out about Thanksgiving, which is in 2 days, because you pretty much have to do everything.
Yes.
You bypass Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley to watch this new show because, to be honest, these two dudes put Lenny and Squiggy to shame.
Totally.
So you move your kids Monchichi off the couch. Remember Monchichi?
I love Monchichis.
You sit down, you break open a can of Tab Cola, and you watch the show. Of course, in the middle of the credits, though, the phone rings, and you can't even pause the show.
No.
It's
Gonna
just
miss
all,
the whole thing because
ring,
it's
ring,
probably
ring.
my mom.
Oh, is it? Yeah, it's 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Probably 8:30.
So if I was reliving kind of my childhood, that's about when my grandma called and my mom had to go in the kitchen and talk to her on the phone.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. So sorry, you're going to miss
You'll miss the rest.
half of the show. Anyway, so there we are in 1981. I didn't watch this show in the 80s.
In the early 80s?
I started watching it
When you were 6?
I honestly don't remember it ever as a kid, but I started watching it when I think I was 14. And it would have still been on.
Yeah.
But I was watching it in reruns over the summer is when I discovered it. And I know my mom would she would have it on the TV sometimes, and then I kind of picked it up from there because she thought that Rick was cute. And I was like, in my brain, I'm like, are you kidding me? AJ is the cute one.
Is where it's at.
But now, as a grown-up, I'm like, hey, Rick.
Exactly.
How you doing? Also, the 80s shows always have the fun opening credits where they have clips from the show, and that's the best because then you can remember, I saw that episode. And you can at one point I could recognize any episode and tell you what episode that clip was from.
And then in the year 2019, when you're watching DVDs, my favorite part about this series is that they have a scene where something explodes, which happened every other episode.
Yeah.
And that's how they explode onto the screen, whether you want to watch the episodes or what you want to do. So I'm always and then they go, play episodes? Sure.
So many explosions in this show.
It's awesome.
I want to say that Rick and AJ have the most conspicuous vehicles ever.
Yes.
Not good for people constantly undercover.
True.
Because they go undercover all the time, which as a teenager, I was like, this is how being a private investigator is.
Yeah.
There's always action.
They got a little slick at one point because there was an episode where they just pretended to be valets and stole somebody's car.
Yes.
So that was good.
That's a good trick.
Yeah.
Rick drives a rusty Dodge Power Wagon with a huge bumper that he can ram into gates and stuff, which he does.
He does.
Initially, AJ drives a 1957 Chevy Bel Air convertible, but then later he upgrades to a Chevy Camaro Z28, which is to this day my favorite car.
Some good stuff.
That is my dream car. If I could go out and buy it right now, I would. I once saw a car like it at a car show. And
That's
you would
AJ's
think
car.
I was meeting a celebrity. It wasn't even the car. And you know how I am around celebrities. So I was like,
oh, yeah.
I love you with a car. You're my favorite car. I love you, car. And it was like,
have you.
all right, you need to move along. Again, it's crazy how many times per episode my brain is like, just get on your phone and call the police.
Right. That happens to me all the time when I watch old shows. I was like, you'll just call. Oh, no, I guess you
you
won't.
can't. And you're always missing each other because you're not at home.
Exactly.
And AJ's phone is always ringing and he's not there.
Yeah. And early on, they have their office where, there's an answering machine. So people just randomly call. I'm looking for the Simon brothers.
Yes.
Here's my dilemma. And then they always have something that goes on.
I need your help, Rick and AJ. So before we talk about the episodes, we're going to talk about the cast.
Yes.
Gerald McRaney plays Richard Simon, the older Simon brother. Gerald McRaney was born in Mississippi on August 19th, 1947. He had several small roles on TV before landing the gig. And he was later in the shows Major Dad. Remember that one? Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And Promised Land. And you know this. He won a Primetime Emmy for his role as Dr. Nathan Katowski in This Is Sad. I mean, This Is Us. You watch that show, right?
I do watch that show.
He won an Emmy for that. Have you seen him on that show?
I literally didn't put together that was him till this exact moment.
I'm gonna drink
He's the doctor.
Yeah, I'm gonna drink some Fruity.
Oh, I'm so excited about that now that I just realized that's Rick Simon.
And you know what? I didn't see those episodes, but I did see him in commercials because I don't watch that show because it makes me too sad.
Such a great show.
But I did see him in commercials, and I was like, oh yeah,
love it.
He's been married to Delta Burke of Designing Women.
That's right.
Since 1989. They met when she guested on Simon and Simon. He also appeared on an episode of Designing Women. They were super cute together. They have always been super cute together.
That's a long Hollywood marriage for
long
sure. That's
Hollywood
amazing.
married. She's his third wife. He asked her to marry him on their second date.
Ooh.
So I guess sometimes it just takes a couple tries.
And it just works out, yes.
But they are super cute together, and they're super in love. And when he won his Emmy, there's like all these pictures of those two kissing each other all over.
How fun.
Jameson Parker plays Andrew Jackson Simon.
Little cutie.
He makes my heart flutter. He was my high school celebrity boyfriend after, I guess I was dating him at the same time I was dating John Stamos. Yeah. But gotta have variety.
Yeah, true. They're very different. Very different looking for sure.
Definitely. He was born November 18th, 1947.
I'm sorry, when was he born?
Oh my God, you guys are twins.
Are we twins?
He was born on your birthday, 1947, in Baltimore.
30 years prior, but that's good.
Whatever.
Well, on our birthday, I'll have to send him. Is he on the Twitter? I'll have to.
I don't think he is, and I'll tell you why in a minute.
Okay.
But please do send him a card.
I'm gonna.
He was born in Baltimore. He later went to a Swiss prep school, where he didn't watch TV or really get much American culture. In an interview during the run of Simon and Simon, he was interviewed by like Nebraska Magazine or something like that. There's a clip of it on YouTube. He talked about how he didn't have the same experiences as his character AJ growing up because he wasn't a teenager in the US. So he didn't do stuff like go to prom and stuff like that. His father died in 1972, and then he moved to New York where he did commercials and off-Broadway plays. He was on One Life to Live as Brad Vernon from 76 to 78. And just before Simon and Simon, he did a movie that I love. It's another obscure movie that I love. It's called A Small Circle of Friends in 1980. Later, he was in Prince of Darkness in 1987, Dead Before Dawn in 1993, and my all-time 100% favorite TV movie, which was called Spy. And it also had Bruce Greenwood, who was also super hot in this movie in 1989. And you cannot find this anywhere. But I do have a VHS copy in my office.
Nice.
Jameson Parker has also been married 3 times. And he's been married to actor Darlene Carr since 1992. She appeared in several episodes of Simon and Simon as different characters, including AJ's high school sweetheart in Who Killed the 60s. So they worked together quite a few times. He was married to someone else at that time. Show went off the air in 1989. They got married in 1992. And she grew up like around horses and stuff like that. So now they live on a ranch in California and they raise horses. He may be on Twitter. He might be.
I'm going to find him.
In 1992, he was shot by a neighbor.
What?
He lived in California with his wife. The neighbor, who was crazy, had like shouted at his wife about her dog because she was walking the dog. And the neighbor started yelling obscenities at her about her dog, like pooping on his lawn or something. And she's like, well, I'm nowhere near your lawn. And he's already done his business elsewhere. So Jameson Parker went over there and confronted the guy. And he shot him several times.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Okay. So I recently read Jameson Parker's memoir, Accidental Cowboy. And I recommend it. It's a very good book. A lot of it is about ranching, like branding cows and stuff. But he also interweaves like his post-traumatic stress from this incident where he got shot, and like depression and stuff like that from that experience.
Yeah.
So that's really good because it's really relatable, and it like humanizes him and says it's okay to be like freaked out by this.
Yeah.
It's really good. You should check it out.
I'm gonna have to.
So yeah, that whole thing happened. That's why he left Hollywood. I think he had a few jobs after that, but he really prefers to be on the ranch.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And that's his thing now.
Wow.
You have anything to say on that while I drink my fruit?
No. I was going to touch on how many people, especially early on in episodes that I watched, that I recognized from other shows, especially. And you know, sometimes when you see people, you're like, oh wait,
yeah,
how
there's
do I know
tons
that
of
person?
people on here. Yeah.
And really early on, well, first of all, Morgan Woodward was on, who played Punk Anderson on Dallas, who has recently passed away. And he was in an episode. But one of my favorites, I was watching and I'm like, oh my God, who is that? Who is that? And I realized it's Louise Sorel, who has been Vivian Alamein on Days of Our Lives. And she's in an episode and she's super young, you know, whatever, it's the early 80s. So I was like, oh my God, how
Everybody's
fun.
so young in this show.
And then I especially thought this one, her name is Lisa, I think it's Albacher. I don't know how to say her last name. She is actually in multiple episodes, one of which she plays twins.
Oh, yes, I know who you're talking about. I've got notes on her.
Well, she's Jenny from Beverly Hills Cop. She's
okay, I've never seen that.
But she's also an officer and a gentleman, of course. But that's the first thing I thought. I was like, who is this? Who is this? I got to figure out how I know this girl. I have to figure it out.
You know what? She was also in the Brady Bunch when Marcia got her nose hit with the ball.
Really?
She was one of her friends that was, hanging out with her.
So yeah, which I also thought was interesting because there's another guy who is in multiple episodes and his name is Jonathan Banks. And he's the guy in Beverly Hills Cop who kills Mikey.
Okay,
the friend.
hold on.
Like, yeah, I was all over this. The whole Beverly
You
Hills.
are all over my notes right now. Wait a minute.
Sorry. But yeah, it was all about Beverly Hills Cop in my life for a few episodes.
Funny. I've never seen. Okay, so Jonathan Banks plays Mike Ehrmantraut on Breaking Bad, which I know you've never seen, and Better Call Saul. He's a very recognizable person, but to see him young...
And all I know him as is the guy in Beverly Hills Cop.
Okay. So to see him young is weird because he's got hair and he looks completely different.
And I've never seen him now. So my literal only reference to him was the guy in Beverly Hills Cop. So then I'm seeing him about the same time when he is on Simon and Simon, and he was in multiple episodes, which I found at least 2. I think maybe 3.
Yes, he was on a couple times. He played different characters and always like a super shady character.
Always a shady guy. He kind of has that face.
Yeah,
he's
and
like the shady guy.
On Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, he plays like a rough guy, like an ex-cop who now like kills people sometimes, but he's the hero. Yeah. You really should watch Breaking Bad.
I should.
You might like it
at some point. But and one of our favorite people, Alan Hale, who is the skipper, was a bartender.
I don't
in
remember
an episode.
that.
By the way, the episode, it's called Rough Rider Rides Again. And I just thought
that is so funny. I
just
just watched Rough Rider Rides Again the other day, and I must have been doing. I think I was typing up my notes.
You must have been,
because I missed that.
He's kind of brief in there.
That's funny.
And
Rough Rider
Rides Again. As soon as I saw the name of the episode, I'm like, oh, I have to watch this.
Gotta watch that one. That was in season 2.
And there he is, Alan Hale as the bartender.
Oh, that's funny.
So yeah, and then of course, Dick Butkus is also in an episode of Simon and Simon.
What season were you watching?
That was super early on. I think that was in season 2 though,
right.
which you have the whole series. You have the whole season 2.
I do. I own it.
Maybe it was 1. I can't remember now. But,
I don't know.
Of course, he plays a football player.
I bet I know I've seen it because I've seen all the episodes. But
it's funny because they're supposed to like protect him, and they're both like, this guy.
Oh, I know what episode you're talking about. That was season 2.
Yeah, and it was over like. Well, I can't even remember now. Was it gambling debts or something? I can't even remember. So of course he didn't need to be like protected.
Yes. Well, Jeannie Wilson plays Janet Fowler.
Yes.
Janet.
Yes.
Whose dad Myron owns the detective agency that AJ used to work for. I think he works there in the first episode, doesn't he? or the second, like in the first season?
There is like an episode where they go back to explain that.
That's what it is.
And those two were together.
Yes, they were together.
AJ.
Mm-hmm. They were engaged.
Yes.
And that's why Myron hates them.
Yes.
Because AJ broke her heart.
And she apparently used to really hate Rick because she didn't want them to be off doing crazy together because she wanted to be with AJ. But then, because that's what I didn't understand in the beginning, they were all so close.
They are really
and she
close.
was always doing stuff for both of them. And there was an episode where she was like sitting between them and they were both like kissing all over her cheeks and stuff to thank her for something. And she's like, oh, ha, ha, ha. And I'm like, what is the dynamic here?
Yes.
How does they're just neighbors and she's like this. And then several episodes in, they go back to this where they explain and they're in court over something. So it was something
they did go to court
that happened when they worked for her dad, or he did.
And because at one point she is a lawyer.
Yes.
She's going for her law degree.
And then is it my imagination or does she disappear after season 2 or something? Or do they like
she comes in, she's in most of the series, I think.
Okay. Because I was watching some of,
I think maybe in later, yeah.
And there was she was nowhere to be found.
I think when they replaced Downtown Brown with a female police chief or whatever, they just had to have another brunette woman with long legs.
Gotcha.
I don't know. But yeah, she can never say no to the Simons.
Right.
And her dad is always mad about it.
Yeah.
Because at one point their office is across the street from his office.
Right.
And
They were yelling through the window at one point. Yeah.
Yeah. Their office changes a couple times. There's like 3 or 4 offices. Yeah. So Jeannie Wilson was born in Tennessee in 1947. She had a lot of TV roles. And the last one that I saw her in was my favorite sitcom of the 90s, Full House. In 1990. She played Miss Garland, who was producing the ad that Jesse was doing for IQ Man when he was in the shower. And she said that his towel was too big. Do you remember this? Like he was in the shower and he had on glasses and it was all steamy. And he comes out and he says, I want to know if I can live with what I know.
I do.
And only that. And she was like all over him and she was chasing him around.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, I wonder why she was chasing him around. So.
Yeah. She seemed very familiar, so I wasn't sure if she was in anything else I saw.
Yeah. That was in 1990.
Like,
She still looked very good.
Yes.
Mary Carver played the Simons' mom, Cecilia Simon.
Mm-hmm. She was awesome.
She passed away in 2013 at 89. She was also in Arachnophobia.
Oh,
remember that movie?
Man.
You probably have only seen it once.
Yeah,
it's about
true
spiders.
Story, yeah.
And she played various characters in Gunsmoke from 56 to 63. Okay. So here's my notes. That's all I have on Mary Carver, because at this point in my notes, I noticed a giant hairy spider on the ceiling of my office, and I had to get my vacuum and suck it up, except that my vacuum is crap, and it gets clogged constantly, so it has no suck. It certainly does not suck.
Certainly does not suck.
And the stupid thing wouldn't even suck up the spider on the ceiling. But then it finally just dropped itself into the suck thing. And so then I had to hold a Post-it note over the hose so that it wouldn't climb out. And then I made my kid follow me down the stairs with the vacuum and open the front door. And then I put it on the front porch. You know, so if the spider isn't sucked completely into the thing,
right,
it'll just crawl right out into nature. And my kid was like, what if someone steals it? And I said, good. It has a spider in it. They deserve the spider. And also, I really want a new vacuum, and no one stole it.
Dang it.
So I got nothing else on Mary Carver, or
or anyone else for that matter.
Like, oh my God. Sorry.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Oh, you want to say anything about Mary Carver that I didn't get?
I don't think so. I
did love super cute.
I did love her as their mom, because early on too, she also they'll be like protecting some woman for, or you know, they're like,
yeah,
and then they're like, here, you're just gonna go stay at our mom's house, and she's like, yes, come along, honey, and I'm like, What? How does this work? So
she's always scolding them.
Yes.
And treating them like kids. And then they go over to her house and they're like, Mom. And their father passed away a long time ago, and he apparently had lots of money. And so their mom is set up good, and she has a really nice house. And yeah, she is so funny.
That was good. She was a good part of that for sure. Because
So then we have Tim Reed, who plays Lieutenant Marcel Proust Brown, i.e. Downtown Brown, from season 3 to 6. And his wife, Daphne Maxwell Reed, who we mentioned in our Fresh Prince of Bel-Air episode, played Vivian Banks number 2.
That's right.
We talked about these two in that episode.
We did.
So go back and listen to that episode. So anyway, Daphne Maxwell Reed played the reporter Temple Hill from 83 to 87 on the show. So whenever they needed someone to like be on the scene or just be telling a story on the news, it was her.
Love it.
Tim Reed was also Venus Flytrap in WKRP in Cincinnati. That's what you would know him from.
I did recognize that he was in something else I had seen.
But also you've seen Sister Sister. He played Ray Campbell. Their dad? I think he was their dad or their uncle.
My gosh, so many things.
William Barnett on that 70s show. And again, you can hear all about this power couple on our Fresh Prince of Bel-Air episode from last season.
Yes, that was a good.
So yeah, they're a long-time couple too. They're still together. They've done a lot of projects together. So there's like a lot of long-term relationships on Simon and Simon.
Well, that must have been the key to everyone's happiness, is to be on Simon and Simon.
So let's take a time machine
and
to
go
the
back
80s just to say hi, not for any reasons.
Hi and be good forever.
Later, Lieutenant Brown was replaced by Lieutenant Abigail Marsh, played by Joan McCurtry, who again, they needed a pretty lady. So they got one.
Just put somebody in there.
This show, I have to admit, is pretty chauvinistic. Like, there's a lot of ladies that come in and out of their lives, and a lot of they get the girl in the end, and then you never see her again.
Yeah.
They're basically just lips and legs.
Which is interesting because did you see the episode? I'm sure you've seen them all. But do you remember the episode where the lady, they are helping a lady who's blind? Because she witnessed.
I haven't seen it recently, but I love that episode.
She quote unquote witnessed a murder.
Doesn't she live with Rick for a while?
Well, it's like she starts dating Rick because, and they're so cute though. Like, because at first they go to talk to her in her apartment, and she's so functional.
That's right.
Rick doesn't even realize she's blind, and they're sitting down, and he's holding a cup of coffee, and she's pouring it, and then he moves, and because she knew where it was, she spills it on him, and he's like, oh geez, da 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 da, and then AJ's like, Rick, like, giving him like the nod, like, hello.
I haven't seen it since like the 90s.
Yeah, it was like,
but I do
that's
remember
a really good episode.
I remember that was one of the early ones that I saw, and I watched this show while I was babysitting my next door neighbor, so she would be napping and I would watch it, and it was like the first grown-up theme show that I ever watched. But I remember that she forgot to turn on the lights at one point. Like, he went into her apartment or whatever, and she's like, oh sorry, I always forget
to
turn on the lights for people.
Interesting how she kind of figured things out, because she escaped this guy. Basically, she worked in a museum, or she was at a museum, and these guys walked in and just killed someone.
Yeah.
And then they come walking back by, and the guy points the gun at her, and she's just standing there, and the guy's like, come on. And he goes, we got to take her out. And he's like, no, she's blind. It doesn't matter. So they go on.
It sure does matter.
She heard their voices.
Yes.
And then later, like, knew the sound of their truck.
Of course.
So then they're trying to track her down later. He gets to, like, the apartment. They throw off. Rick and AJ go on some wild goose chase or something. This guy comes after her. She's in the basement of a parking garage. And she's like so smart, and she's feeling around. She fills like a cup with bleach because like the laundry's down there, and she turns the light off, and then he comes around the corner. She just throws it in his face.
Geez.
She goes running off, and then she slams into cars. And I don't know if she did it on purpose, but then of course an alarm goes off. So then it's like she's drawing all this attention, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so interesting. But they were so cute that like,
that was a great episode.
But then those things happen, and then they're never together with these women
never see them again.
Yeah, I'm like, oh,
happens all the time.
It's fine.
But it's fine because I don't mind.
Right. They're on the run, right? They're kind of on the run all the time. So,
in season 1, episode 3, did you see the one with Cousin Oliver? Robbie Rist played Cousin Oliver on
the Brady Bunch.
The Brady Bunch. And he was in this episode where he played a computer hacker. And he used one of those new home computers.
Yes.
To like hack into a bank computer. And then the vice manager of the bank he's stealing from kidnaps him just by asking him to get in his car. Because it's 1981. And he's like, hey, kid, get in my car. And he's all, okay.
Okay.
And that's how Arnold got kidnapped.
Yeah, exactly. That's so
on
true.
different strokes.
Do you want to ride? Well, we really should.
We really should, but we will. Because
Great.
It's the 80s and we haven't heard about this yet.
Accept it.
Mm-hmm. Also, there's no HIPAA, so they can get info from anybody.
Exactly.
Anybody. I'm just like, well, I heard.
I heard this.
AJ always hates Rick's shady friends. But they get a lot of their information from Rick's shady friends.
Yes.
Because Rick is, we forgot to mention, he's a Vietnam vet.
That's right.
So when AJ was still in school, Rick went to Vietnam, and
he comes back all hardened.
There's like a lot of emotional scenes about that happening, and so that's where Rick met a lot of these people. So then there was in season 1 the show Matchmaker, and that guest stars Erin Gray, who played the stepmom on Silver Spoons. Oh. This is one where somebody's being duped by this dating service. And it's a video dating service. AJ then has to pretend to be a rich guy and goes to the dating service because somebody is like robbing the rich clients, like going on dates with them.
Yes, I did
and
see
robbing them.
Part of that one.
So Rick has to buy a VCR. And it cost him $600. And amazing. AJ has to go on a bunch of dates.
I did see that one.
And they have Marlo make some paintings so they can pretend like he's this rich guy. Marlo is Rick's dog.
Yes.
And that's another one that guest starred Jonathan Banks. Also, they get tied up and they get tear gassed.
Oh, yes.
Because that happens a lot.
It happens a lot. And, they're escaping death a lot in this show. I mean, there's a
explosions
part where
all the time.
I think somebody somehow, I think Rick gets, drugged and put in a hang glider or something. Did I see that?
Yeah, that did
He ends up in, the ocean.
He's
and
been drugged so many times.
Tons of times. I was like, what is happening here? I mean, all these different things happen. And there's, they have tons of stunts going on, and let's just admit it is the early 80s, so at times you're watching the stuntmen and you see them and they have these horrible bleach blonde wigs on when they're supposed to be AJ, and it just made me laugh. But if it weren't
for this show, I would never have pretended to be tied to a chair with my friend trying to get
out of your ties. Yes.
I would crawl around in my bedroom with the lights off pretending, and let's just point out that I started watching this show when I was 14. So this was happening when I was a teenager.
As a teenager trying to escape death.
Because it was action-packed.
Yes.
So do you have, before I talk about my favorite episode, do you have a favorite episode, or have you already talked about your favorite
gosh, I'm trying to think. There was a couple good ones. There was one, and I'm trying to think now, and I feel like I watched this a long time ago. So I've been watching this now for a few months, kind of spread out.
Because I was never fully ready to do this.
Right. And plus I just kind of put it in and interspersed it throughout. So there is an episode, and I'm trying to even think of the premise now, and maybe you'll remember. So it's they're trying to solve this 30-year-old murder because of something someone says. They end up having to break into this guy's house and get in the planks of the fireplace to find a gun that
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, he tried, and it clears someone, and someone's he owns all these restaurants in town, so they can't imagine it would be him. And it's this big ordeal, and
sounds
it was
really familiar.
I want to say too that they ended up, it's a daughter of the guy that was killed ends up hiring them, and she has something happen. Again, same thing. I think she ends up falling for one of the guys.
Of course. I mean, who wouldn't?
Yeah. But it was a real, I just remember that one, and now I can only remember bits and pieces of it, but I remember being hooked into that thing, and I'm oh, this is great. And there were just a few like that where lots of like different random things happened and I'd get like sucked in. And now I feel like I'm kind of putting them all together in my mind as the different episodes. But yeah, there were some good ones. And one I didn't get to finish watching. I started watching it one day and then I like something happened and I had to go and I didn't watch it. It was something like their mom was going to get kidnapped in a foreign country or something. But then they were like showing old stuff and AJ was playing their dad.
Okay, yes.
And so then they were like little kids and whatever.
Sure.
I didn't get to end up watching that one, but I was like, oh, no, I wish I had seen that. So I may have to still just intersperse some Simon and Simon here and there because there's some good stuff.
There's some really good ones I didn't get to watch recently. There are also some that I don't want to watch again. Like there's one that I remember where something bad happened to their mom that I don't want to talk about. So there's a lot of really good episodes that I just don't have. My favorite episode ever, which is the reason I bought season 2. I told you I bought season 2 because my favorite episode was on it. And I don't know if you watched this one. It was The List from season 2. And AJ falls super in love with this client who hired them after being accused of murdering a smarmy publisher who put her on San Diego's top 10 sexiest women list against her will. So she's very beautiful. Okay. Obviously, as apparently all women in San Diego
apparently
are.
Everyone is.
Everyone who needs help from a detective.
Yes. Is
gorgeous. So she hired them because she was put on this list and then this guy was killed and the list was stolen because there were a lot of people on the list who didn't want to be on the list. And they can't figure out why this matters so much to her, why she doesn't go to the police. It stars Christina Rains as Amanda, who is the love interest. It also guest stars Richard Anderson, who played Oscar Goldman in The $6 Million Man, which we talked about last week on our show.
Last week, then. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so he plays a rich guy. So this dude is killed, but Amanda can't go to the police for help, so she's staying at AJ's place.
Of course.
Conveniently, because she can't stay at her apartment because she doesn't also want to get killed. So they're basically, as Rick puts it, playing house.
Yeah.
And Rick starts digging into her past and he finds like some shady stuff and he gets super suspicious of her. Like when he and AJ go to her apartment, there's nothing personal of hers in it. And there's nothing about her past that they can find. Rick figures out she's lying about who she is and he calls her on it. And AJ almost punches Rick. Then they're not speaking to each other.
Oh, no.
And then this photographer gets killed over some missing film that's related to this whole case. And it turns out he's taken pictures of the rich lady, Richard Anderson's character's wife, getting lesbian with another lady who's like the TV weather girl or something. So if you don't want to hear what happens, do you want to hear what happens?
I can hear what happens, yeah.
Skip ahead because we're about to give away the ending. So it turns out Oscar Goldman of The $6 Million Man, he's the killer. Rick and AJ chase him. His car goes over the cliff.
Of course.
And explodes.
Oh, goodness.
Can you imagine how many fires there are in San Diego with all the explosions? One time a boat exploded and then like cars explode all the time.
Oh my goodness gracious.
So he's probably dead. So Amanda, the love interest, she's all, it's all over now. And AJ's like, no, we still have to go to the cops. And he's super in love with her. And it turns out she's in the witness protection program. And now that Rick has uncovered her past and her true identity, she has to move again.
Yes.
But the government guy comes to their office, which is now the upstairs office, to tell them that she's going to have to move again. And AJ's like, oh, yeah, let's do that. And the guy's like, no, she's already gone.
Yeah.
And AJ like starts yelling at him. And he's like, you can't do that. I have to say goodbye to her. And he's like, no, you can't.
Sorry.
So the guy's leaving and he's like screaming at him, I can find her. And Rick's got to like talk him down. And he's like, you're the best detective like in San Diego and you could totally find her. But then they're going to be following you and they're going to kill her. So you can't ever find her.
Aww.
She leaves him a note on his bed and it's all sad. And it's like, you can't ever find me. I love you. Like they were going to get married kind of love, even though they only lived together for like a week. So then in the end, he's like he's drunk in a bar and it's sad. And then the next episode, he's fine.
He's fine again. Find another lady.
That was my favorite episode. It was the saddest thing. It was so
yeah.
sad. He's like, at one point, he's like, I know you know that I'm falling in love with you. And she's all like, I know. But he doesn't know what she knows, which is that she can't stay.
Really be in love with him because it won't work out.
Oh, but then it's fine because later, I mean, that was only season 2. So he's going to fall in love with like 6 more times.
Yeah. 17 more times.
Rick fell in love a couple times.
Yeah.
Almost got married one time, but then he was looking for this lady's husband who was presumed dead. And then he was like in love with her and like she had a kid. And so he was going to marry her. And he even told AJ he was going to marry this woman. And then they found her husband.
Oh.
And he's like, oh.
Oh, dang. I can't believe we found.
But then they fell in love with another person. So,
of course.
So anyway, that's my favorite episode.
Yes.
I learned so many tricks from this show. You know I did. Mm-hmm. In fact, now when I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, that's where I got that.
That's how I know how to do that.
That's how I know how to do that. That's how yeah, okay.
I'm turned on to Simon and Simon.
I'm glad you liked it.
Stuff.
I mean, there was one day when I was watching it like way too much, and I was like, I have got to stop watching.
Yeah, I watched a couple, in a row where I was like, oh, this is a good one, whatever, and then there'd be like one in the middle. I'm like, oh, this is not good.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to admit, like the one with the computer hacker kid was kind of a little boring, but you got through it. You think about in the 80s, you had to watch the episode that was on that week. Yeah. And you were just happy to watch your weekly show. If you liked Simon and Simon, please let us know. Because you know what? Nobody ever talks about Simon and Simon.
No.
It was such a popular show. It was a huge hit.
Thinking that people, I'm wondering if like our parents, I mean, I have no idea if my parents, like,
I know my mom watched it.
I don't think they did because I don't remember ever seeing it. So if they did,
I don't think mine watched it like in prime time. I think my mom watched it during the day in reruns and that was it. Because they started rerunning the show before it went off the air.
Yeah.
So you got anything else to say about Simon and Simon other than they are dreamy?
Yes, they are dreamy. And now that we have talked about it, we will have to do a reboot and be Simon and Simon. And so
how does that theme song go? I couldn't even sing it.
Hold on, I just
know that at the end of the original theme song they go, we're not just brothers, we're best of friends.
Can't do quite the banjo-ishness of it. That was like early on too when they would do more of it throughout the episode.
Yes.
But
you always have to have your transitional music. There you go.
He just got kissed by Shamu.
Wait, what? Oh, yeah. Okay. I was like, what? Oh,
there he is, checking out some lady who walked by.
Okay, he wasn't checking her out, but like he was making sure she was gone.
Oh.
I mean, if you watch that episode, because in the credits it looks like he's just looking at her butt.
True.
But that's not what's happening.
Oh, there's the rusty old pickup truck. Oh, driving in the water.
Something's gonna explode in a minute.
Just did.
And they jump.
And you guys get it.
Did you see? I posted on the Facebook page. John Hamm and that guy from that other show remade like shot for shot.
Yes.
Did you see that?
Yes,
that was great. You gotta find that on the Facebook page because that was amazing.
That was. I love that.
And being that I know every scene of that opening, I was like, yep, they got it right. They got it shot for shot.
What they do. Love it.
Well, let's wrap up Simon and Simon. Let's wrap up Simon and Simon individually and put them in our pockets.
Put them in our pockets. And I'm Rick.
And I will take AJ.
Or I'm AJ.
I mean, if we're divvying it up. Okay.
Signing off.
I'm Rick. I'm Rick.
And I'm AJ. Signing off.
Signing off. How do we end the show?
Just like that.
I just forgot how we end our show.
We should just say we wrap it up.
Wrap it up. I got nothing else. Wrap it up. Thanks for joining us. We'd love it if you would leave a review and also follow us on Facebook. Be sure to tune in next week for more TV tangents. I have 19 missed text messages.
Oh, I have one from Melissa Boobs. Who put her in my phone that way?
You did.
I probably did.
You know you did.
No, look.